we're going to talk about doors. Doors. There are not very many items replete with as much symbolic meaning as a door. A door has been an integral part of the entrance to our home since time immemorial, but so much more. If we're going to talk about doors, we should start with defining what a door is. Per Wikipedia, a door is a hinged or otherwise movable barrier that allows ingress into and egress from an enclosure. The created opening in the wall is a doorway or portal. A door's essential and primary purpose is to provide security by controlling access to the doorway. Conventionally, it is a panel that fits in the doorway of a building, room, or vehicle. Doors are generally made of a material suited to the door's task. They are commonly attached by hinges, but can move by other means such as slides or counterbalancing. That's actually not what we're going to talk about today, though. So doors are a ubiquitous and common method to control ingress and egress from a space. But even Wikipedia delves into the wider imagery of doors in its description as it continues. Doors can have aesthetic, symbolic, or ritualistic purposes. Receiving the key to a door can signify a change in status from outsider to insider. Doors and doorways appear frequently in literature and the arts, with metaphoric or allegorical import as a portent of change. Chipping on my words. Well, okay, but what about the doors? Oh, Daryl Lynn. And Gumby. I love it. How about the name chosen for Jim Morrison's band, The Doors? A telling hint is that the original name for the band was The Doors of Perception. The Doors of Perception was a line of poetry, originally written by William Blake in 1790. In his book, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, and it reads, here it is, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all through narrow chinks of his cavern. This metaphor was intended by Blake to represent his feelings about mankind's limited perception of the reality behind him. And continuing in that vein, there was a book called The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley borrowed the line from Blake for the title of his famous book, The Doors of Perception, which was published in 1954, the year the Reverend and I were born. The line was included in this work and Huxley's subsequent work, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, which was Blake's title, published in 1956. The first book was an autobiographical account of the author's experience with taking mescaline and the insights he experienced ranging from purely aesthetic to sacramental vision, way ahead of his time. Achieving a more expansive view of the universe through taking mescaline became an important theme for the Beat generation prior to the hippies, including luminaries William S. Burroughs, Jack Kerouac, and Allen Ginsberg. The book was extremely popular through the Summer of Love because it embraced the expansion of awareness by using psychedelic drugs. Huxley was, by the way, you can hear all about this, the Beat poets, if you visit the City Lights bookstore in San Francisco. Huxley was reported to have authored the book in Los Angeles, but I can tell you, true story, I've heard several accounts of it having been written by him in one of the oceanfront homes on Del Playa in Isla Vista. Curiously, though, I heard it about 3 separate homes from the owners who claimed it was their home. How about doors in the Bible? The potency of the door as a means for symbolic and ritualistic purposes is repeated throughout the Bible. According to one researcher, the word door is mentioned 190 times in the Bible. One of the first instances is in Deuteronomy 11, 18 through 21, where Moses recounts God's words. You shall therefore lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul. Then you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you are sitting in your home, and when you are walking by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall write them on the doorposts of your home and on your gates, that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give them as long as the heavens are above the earth. Then there is a famous and oft-repeated advice in Matthew 7:13 through 14. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter it are many. For the gate is narrow, and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. And then there's Christ's words given to him in Luke 11:9. And I tell you, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, it will be opened. Now that reminds me of our teaching at Center of the Heart. Doors and doorways have always been a potent symbol in art and literature. Mike and Donna Bradley curated an exhibition on doorways on, this was a website, fringeartsbath.co.uk, and had a great synopsis on doors and doorways in art and literature. I'm going to read their synopsis because I thought it was so perfect. Doorways are thresholds to somewhere new. Doorways are the physical symbol of the transition, of change between the now and the next, from the here to there, moving in, moving out, moving on. Familiar in ritual, religion, and myth and literature, they have an emotional power. They're the liminal space between two states of being, a transition. There's that word again that has to be negotiated before the next can begin. Doorways are often used to represent transition, the passage between one place or state of being and the next. This might be childhood to adulthood, for instance, leaving one part of life behind, moving on to another. The threshold between one place and another. The doorways can symbolize so much more. Doorways always represent a choice, a decision, the choice to stay or to go. Of one path or another, the metaphor of a corridor of doors is often used to represent a multitude of choices, as in Alice in Wonderland at the beginning. But before choice comes a decision. Doorways are often represent the act of making decisions itself, or the fear and inertia of indecision. Who hasn't been there? Doorways have been symbols of new life, of birth, of a doorway to the world. They have also been symbols of death, of passing from this life to the next, or to whatever awaits beyond the door, of others who are already there. They can be loaded with hope, new opportunities, of new horizons, leaving the now behind for a better next. They can represent an escape, a way out, even to places of fantastical imaginings. But they can also be loaded with fear, with worry, and with uncertainty. We fear the unseen and the unknown. We cannot know what is beyond the door until we pass the threshold, just as the future is unknown to us. An open door can represent welcome, invitation, encouragement. Locked doors can symbolize protection or privacy, keeping us safe inside from the threat from outside. Doors were once daubed with an X to symbolize the presence of the plague in the Middle Ages. Or else they can represent imprisonment, even entrapment, enclosure, or control. And if we're on the outside, closed doors often offer a little bit cold comfort, even banishment. A lot depends on which side we're on. Doors are locked to keep us in or barred to keep us out. Locked doors can represent a lack of inclusion, of expulsion, the separation of us from the other. It all depends on whether we are on the inside or outside. I'm going to slip over here and close a door and be right back. Okay, next slide. Just ask Alice. Alice in Wonderland and Behind the Looking Glass, or was it Through the Looking Glass? Are famous fantasy novels full of door symbolism. Alice falls down the rabbit hole, which is a kind of a door of sorts, and ends up in front of a door that is the entrance to Wonderland. She can't get in until she figures out how to get the key, which is lying on the top of a very tall table she can't reach. And through the looking glass, she visits Wonderland again by going, well, through the looking glass, a mirror in her parents' study. In his remarkable novel, Neverwhere, also a TV series I've seen and read, I've read that, seen the TV series, Neil Gaiman features a darker sort of Wonderland lying beneath London. The protagonist's name is not Alice, but Door. How appropriate. It's a scary book. Doors are focal points of our experience here. Beyond may hold an answer or more questions. They may lead to your desired destination or somewhere where you may question your decisions. They also represent a transition. There's that word. They are a transition. They represent a transition. So for my conclusion slide today, I wrote a poem. By the way, Roxy for sure will recognize this as the tarot card, the High Priestess. The High Priestess sits with the Torah. Missing one letter there, but that's the Torah. This is the Temple of Solomon, and these are the pillars in front of the Temple of Solomon. They were called Boaz and Hakim. Behind the veil lies the Holy of Holies, originally said to be the Ark of the Covenant. But now, in every Jewish temple you will visit, you will see this same arrangement. You will see a veil. And when it comes time to read the Torah, the priest will go behind the veil, get the Torah, bring it out, unroll it, read from it. Maybe the cantor will sing. At the end of the service, he'll roll it back up and replace it behind the veil with the Holy of Holies. Originally, it was thought when the Ark of the Covenant was there that God was present behind the veil, and that if anyone except the high priest went behind the veil, they would die instantly. So this is an important symbol. So I'm going to conclude with the tanka I wrote for the tarot card, the High Priestess, Major Arcana 2. A tanka is a Japanese poem form with a certain number of syllables for each line. She holds the Torah between Boaz and Hakim, content with knowledge that God sits behind the door and can give her everything. And that's my share today.